Hello. Have you ever heard of Amaranthus, the super greens, mostly used in the Indian cooking or the Asian cooking, I would say. In many places, it's considered as a weed too because of the way it self sows in the garden. But here, in the area we live, it of course self sows and pops out everywhere, which is great depending on the soil, the weather, and the temperature. And I love to grow different varieties of Amaranthus because it's such a good greens to use, very easy to freeze if you in case you have some excess. And today I just would like to show a small recipe, a quick and fast recipe on how we generally use these super greens. I would just like to show a couple of varieties that we had in the garden. I have already harvested. This is one, the light green stem. This is personally my favorite variety, and this is super beautiful, super pretty. Of course, there's not a big difference in the taste, but the way they grow is just amazes me on how beautiful they look. This is another dark green leaves, and look at that beauty right there. I just let it be so the birds can feed on the seeds. The little finches love to feed on these greens, and the way we can collect the seed out of these greens is once we have the, I hope we can see the little tiny black seeds right there amongst the white shells. There's little tiny black spots right there. I'm a bit worried this time because of the way this has grown. I'm sure it'll self sow in the garden a lot, and I'm just worried it's going to come up everywhere in the mulch, and that's going to be quite some work, but definitely going to be some fun work too. And let's get inside and I'll show you the greens that I have harvested, and we can talk about the recipe that we can do too. There we go, the greens that we have harvested for the day. We can really tell the color difference. Like this is dark green, light green, pink stemmed, and dark green leaves. So what I'm going to do is, we can definitely use the stem as well, but I think the stems got a little mature for this time. I'm not going to use the stems. I'm just going to go ahead and try to get the not completely just the leaf, maybe just that part of the leaf, like as such. I'm just going to go ahead and clean up all of that, and we can talk about more recipes as I start using them in the kitchen. And I'll just go ahead and clean up all of that, and I'll show you the rest of the procedure. There we go. We've separated the leaves and the stems, and we're going to go ahead, clean this up, chop it up, and then we'll start cooking. And there we go. The greens are nicely washed, and I just laid them on a piece of cloth to drain the water off. And I usually have my kitchen waste collector handy right there, for to use for composting, and that's how I have it handy. And just a little tip, when we wash the greens or we wash anything in the house, just want to talk about conserving the water. So I try my best to collect the water with the water from when I wash the rice, when I wash some lentils, or say when I wash the vegetables. I always try to collect that water and use it in the garden. And on the days when it's raining and I cannot collect anymore, or the soil is too moist, I usually try to plug the sink hole, and then I use that water to soak the dishes. And this is not being stingy. This is about conserving the water, saving the water for the future generations. Water is something very precious that cannot be just let go. It takes a lot for us to have that clean water, being able to use it on an everyday basis without struggling so much. And I feel we all need to learn to value that. Little things like these are not being stingy, it's just being more conscious, I would say. We can go ahead and into the process of cooking. I'm going to chop the greens, chop a little bit of onion, and maybe a couple of cloves of garlic, and then we'll get into the process. So there we have all of our ingredients ready, and I've just lit up the stove on a medium flame, and there we go. Added a little bit of cooking oil, maybe a tablespoon, and once the oil heats up, we are going to do the tempering first. And in the tempering, we are going to use some mustard seeds. That's how they look, and some cumin, and then roast the garlic, and then I'll go ahead and add some dry red chilies too. I'll show you once the oil heats up. The oil looks to be heated up, so I'm just going to add little mustard seeds. I think the oil has to heat up a little bit more because as soon as we put in the mustard seeds usually crackle up. Like, the mustard seeds are spluttering. I'm not usually a great fan of the mustards when they're spluttering because it just gets everywhere. And then I'm adding some cumin seeds. We can hear the sizzle. That's the oil heating up. And once the cumin seeds roast for a second or two, I'm going to go ahead and add the garlic. Once that garlic is starting to roast and turns a little light brown, then we'll go ahead and add our red chilies. I'm going to reduce the flame. I see there we go. Then goes in our dry red chilies, and this is all the heat that I'm going to get in the final dish. I'm not going to add any more spices, and I see that the garlic also has roasted very well. And then goes in our little bit of onion. At this point we usually add some curry leaves too, but now that we are using a lot of greens, I'm kind of skipping the curry leaves anyway. But curry leaves do give a great flavor, and we can add it up too. At this stage I'm going to add a little bit of turmeric, which is having a lot of medicinal properties too. And then goes in a little bit of salt, just enough for the onions to cook. And this recipe does not take a lot of salt at all. It gets too salty. Little bit of salt goes a long way. So once you start making this recipe, you'll know how much salt you like for this particular recipe. It's totally by choice. I use very less salt because little salt goes a long way in this recipe. And at this stage, the onions have been cooking for about a minute and they have turned translucent. This is more than enough. We'll go ahead and add all of our greens now. They wilt in very fast, and once we add the greens, I'm going to turn the flame into low and then cover it up with a lid, and then come back after 2 minutes and then mix it very well, and it will be almost done in another 2 minutes after that. We've added our greens. Give it a little mix. Cover it up with a lid, and we'll come back in 2 minutes. This is just literally 2 minutes after I came in, and we see that the greens have wilted mostly. And there we go. Just giving it a good mix once, and then I'm going to close the lid again and cook it for maybe 2 more minutes, and then open the lid and then cook it for a minute or so, and done. We'll have our stir-fried amaranthus greens. There we go. We see the water sizzling inside. So the second 2 minutes I have been cooking on medium flame. The first 2 minutes are on low flame. The second 2 minutes are on medium flame. And once we see that a lot of water has been oozed out, I'm just going to give it a good mix again. Gave it a good mix again, and now I'm going to leave this on medium heat without the lid for maybe next 1 minute. and dish it out. And there we go. The next 45 seconds to 1 minute is kind of done. Turning off the flame, and that's it. The recipe is done. There's heat from the dry long chili and a little bit of sweetness here and there from the little onion that we have put in, and the salt. This is an acquired taste. I wouldn't say you will love the recipe. This is definitely an acquired taste. It might not, it just depends on the palate. My kids personally, they don't like it. I didn't like it as a child. It's just a very quiet taste. I totally love it now. I look forward to making this recipe. But though my kids don't like it, I try to give them at least a spoonful mixed with rice every time I make this, and I just request them to eat it just like they're eating a medicine. That is how nutritious these greens are. So I will never miss an opportunity to feed them these greens, request them, treat them, whatever, but I make sure that they eat at least 2 spoons of this, a spoonful or 2 spoonfuls of the greens with a little bit of rice. And there we go, nice and bright and beautiful. And I hope you like the recipe, and really delicious for sure once you start liking it, and hope you'll enjoy it. Grow it and make it the best greens that you can get. Finally, just felt like a good picture with the background view out there by the kitchen window and the cooked greens here. I love it. Hope you'll enjoy it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much.